Buddy, Thrive Arts Academy Masterclass Series. So good to see all of you this morning. Students, volunteers from worship teams across our campuses. This is amazing. We had a great masterclass last week with Zorro, the drummer, just amazing bits of wisdom and just encouragement as we talked with Zorro. And this morning, man, we are so excited to have Melinda Watts with us.
Hey guys.
Yeah, most of you probably know Melinda if you've been watching church online. She's been kind of one of the main worship leaders in the rotation on our global feed for worship. And just to give you a little background with her, she's an amazing vocalist and worship leader. She's had a recording career before our relationship in Bayside. She released an album called People Get Ready that was on the top of the gospel charts for a while. And then came into the Bayside world as one of our worship leaders and the team lead now at our Midtown campus, our Midtown campus is killing it. She does a fantastic job leading that team there of just uber amazing musicians there. She is an amazing wife and mom, married to Will, and her three daughters, Honor, Lyric, and Freedom. And most recently, just the cutest little guy ever is Power, who joined their family. And I know she counts us all as huge blessings. But we want to welcome Melinda, and also part of Thrive Worship at this point too. So great to have her with us. Everybody, welcome Melinda Watts.
Thank you, Brandon. Can I pay you to introduce me like forever? Because that was awesome, man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, we're so glad to have you join us, Melinda, and just looking forward to you pouring into our students, our volunteers. One of the things we realize, especially with the students of the Arts Academy, is they're being supported, encouraged by either parents or mentors, things like that. I'm wondering, like, at the beginning of your kind of journey musically as an artist, who was there for you? What did that look like for you? Who did you go to for encouragement?
Well, funny enough, I didn't grow up in a musical family. So no one in my family growing up was into music. Nobody played any instruments. They didn't go to church. I literally had nothing from home to echo the fact that I was a budding singer. But my babysitters down the street, they all were singers. It was a singing family, a preaching family, a Christian family, and I just so happened to have them as babysitters. So I would go to the babysitters and literally have class every day. They were just living their lives and singing and, working on their parts. And so I was around it just growing up. And I think that is just, it's so, and now eventually, like when I was maybe 16, my parents were like, oh, okay, she's serious about it. So it grew on my immediate family, but really it was like a community effort, my neighbors, they really poured into me. My babysitters, they poured into me. They would take me to all different kinds of churches, from Catholic churches to Methodist church, all different kinds of churches I ended up going to as a kid. So I was able to just have that experience. So I'm really thankful that I did get poured into by all kinds of people, but it didn't start at home.
Well, that's interesting. So you were brought to a bunch of different churches. I imagine witnessing a lot of different styles.
Oh yeah.
Maybe speak to how that influenced you.
It is one of the most beautiful things I think about my life and my story is that I look back on my life and I'm like, how did that happen? I was, like I said, with my neighbors and my babysitters, they introduced me to a lot of gospel music, strong, just rooted gospel. But then my Girl Scout troop was all country music. It was just straight country music. And so I'm 9 years old hearing gospel and then hearing country music from the neighbors who loved country music. And that's what we would listen to at Girl Scouts, right? And it was just this big jambalaya of growing up with hearing all the different sounds. And I fell in love with different parts of different things. And I think for me, it's why I love all kinds of music. It's why I think I've kind of worked on being in different types of settings because I love all kinds of music. I even like Hindu music, like the Indian sound, like their style is just amazing. Um, so yeah, I've just been exposed to different styles from a kid.
That's super cool. Maybe more specifically, do you have specific artists that influenced you from those genres that you could share with the people here?
I do. I'm a Bonnie Raitt fan.
What?
Yes, I'm a Bonnie Raitt fan. I'm a Reba McEntire fan.
Wow.
I am a Carrie Underwood fan. Huge fan of those guys. Of course, I like Beyonce. I love Yolanda Adams. So like gospel and pop and country and jazz. Just I like it all. I'm not a huge fan of just one thing stylistically because I can pull something from a lot of different places. But as far as my heart, what I feel passionate about singing, what I feel most connected to is worship.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And so, yeah.
in when you were being exposed to all these different types of music, did you
Mhm.
kind of did you kind of go in open-minded with it, or I mean, were you like, I imagine you're pretty young to be seeking out, to be kind of thinking, oh, I need to study this and this to become a well-rounded singer, or is it just the mere fact of being exposed to it?
um, it was more like, it's just like tasting food. That's how I feel about music. You taste macaroni and cheese. If you taste it by the right person, you're like, I like that. I want some more of that. That's what it was like for me with different kinds of music. Now, you might taste music, like for me, heavy metal personally was like Brussels sprouts. I didn't really like that too much. You feel what I'm saying? But I'm sure, I can stand it. But so I think it's just trying out different things and see what connects to you, what moves you, what you like, what feels good. And so that's how it was.
And then, so what about worship just resonated so much for you that you've basically given your life to it?
I really, really have. I found that in worship, I could, I didn't have to worry about the times changing with worship. Now, stylistically, worship changes. Um, different artists has risen to the forefront. But with worship, the concept and the subject matter is always the same.
Mm.
And I could always find my life story, my hope, my future, my goals, my dreams in worship. It didn't change with whatever the trends were. It didn't change with, whatever was popular at the time. God is always in style. God is always popular. Jesus is always number one. I could, sing from my heart. I could sing with a passion. I didn't have to hold anything back. Worship and using my voice to glorify God, it just connected with me because no matter where I was always found in Him. So I could sing a song that I sang years ago, I can still sing it today, and it's still relevant.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We'd mentioned your family and all of your wonderful kids earlier on. So
Yeah.
part of Thrive Arts Academy and being lessons with a purpose is we want to disciple these students to be encouragers as well, and to kind of pay it forward, as it were. I saw a post of I think one of your daughters recently, about worship and how you're encouraging her, and like she's just
Yeah.
a passionate worshiper. Maybe speak to that a little bit about how you see yourself mentoring your family, and then maybe the people around you.
Oh, with my daughter Lyric, Lyric loves just church, and she loves friends, and she loves Bayside, and she loves, you know, uh, the camp that they're doing. But one thing about my daughter is that I've had to learn, I want her to fall in love with it. I don't want to push her to do what I'm doing. I wanted to connect with her. I think as a mom, there's a place for me to encourage and to support and to mentor, but I try not to force it. So with Lyric, she loves to sing. She's an incredible dancer. She's just learning. And so recently I had to lead worship, and she was in my rehearsal. And I just felt really strongly that she needed to be a part of what I was doing in that setting so that she could open up more in the other things that she was doing. Because that's the thing about worship. Worship just opens you up in a way that, in a beautiful way, musically, sonically, in your instrument is just so free and so, this is no way to explain it. And so I know that Lyric likes to sing, pop, and she likes to write all kinds of music. And I think she was stuck. And so for me, allowing her to express herself to the Lord in worship, that opened her up in other ways. So I like to mentor people, true to who they are. I try to dig and see what their goals are, what is stirring within them, and then kind of just lead and guide them. I try not to force it. But my daughter Freedom, who is 2 years old, she's straight worship. And I understand why, because she's a handful too. So I thank God for balancing that out. she just she just plugged something in my toilet last night. So that's a whole nother story. Sorry guys. But yeah, she's a worshiper.
That's amazing. Well, you mentioned her being stuck, your other daughter
Yeah.
being stuck. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, you said as you when you got to be 16 is when your parents kind of recognized your
Yeah.
ability and they started to go along with it. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, as a young artist, a young singer, any of these, how did you develop your craft? In other words, when you and when you came across hurdles, how did you overcome those hurdles, and maybe just speak about that, the early development of your craft?
Again, the one thing about church and worship, and I call it Jesus music, especially for young people, is that you can count on it. You can count on it being there. You can count on your local church to be a place where you can get involved and serve. Not only was I really active in my church and Christian music gave me a world perspective of full of hope. So I just honed my skills serving, whether it be in the choir, whether it was just being an usher. I just really started out really young serving in church, and I used my gifts for God, and then God introduced my gifts to other things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I focused on using my gifts for God, and then he allowed my gift to bless other people, and all kinds of different things I've been able to do. But I stayed in church and I stayed in worship for guidance on what to do, and also just for that favor, just that ability to go do other things. So that's what I did. A lot of people have a lot of different stories, but me, every Sunday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, Friday night was game night. I was in church. I was just always in church. And it really wasn't like this deep, we just have to be in church. I was like, it was fun. And again, the subject matter never changed. Every time I sing hallelujah, it's gonna be about the same thing. I don't have to worry about nobody misinterpreting that. You know what I mean? It was just a safe, beautiful place to develop.
So good. That's so good. Um, I know some younger students and maybe even older students will have the issue of stage fright or being just afraid to get in
Hmm.
front of people and use their gift. Did you ever experience that, or can you encourage her to maybe overcome that a bit?
I still experience that. I get very stage fright from a kid till now. Um, this is what I tell my daughter, and I'll say what I tell my daughter because I'm still trying to do it myself at times. Stage fright is really something that you can use for good. You can use that stage fright and turn that fear into something that you can put into your song, into your instrument. Um, my dad taught me something really, really. He would just say take back that fear and put it into the song. So if you're feeling afraid, play a little bit more passionately. If you're afraid and while you're singing, pull it from another place, pull from your heart and let that emotion of fear be overcome. And in the case of worship, let it be overcome by God's love for you in that moment. We can always worry about, oh my God, what if I'm going to just like mess up or, all these things. But I think allowing those emotions to be used and harnessed. My daughter Lyric, again, she went through a very tough thing at school this past school year. she was on stage and she faced a really embarrassing moment because she was just so nervous. She was so nervous, you know? Um, and I didn't know how to encourage her in that because I thought she would never get on stage again because she was embarrassed and she just was afraid and nervous. And you know what she told me? It was maybe a week later. She said, Mom, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get back on stage again. I said, oh, really? Like, what happened? What'd you think? She said, because God is in me and God is not afraid. And if he's dancing through me, if he's singing through me, I'm going to be okay. That was just something that happened. And I'm looking at her like, thank you for teaching me. So yeah, like when you allow God to sing through you and play your instrument through you and you're yielded to that, he can handle the fear for you.
That's amazing. So we can rely on God to kind of carry us through. On the other side of that, we have volunteers and students here. What's the responsibility or maybe the calling of an artist to go the level of what preparation? What does preparation look like for you? What did it look like as a young artist to be prepared for whatever performances you were heading into? And what does it look like today when you're getting ready to get on Facebook Live in front of 250,000 viewers? How do you prepare for that?
Are you saying how important is preparation or how do I prepare?
Yeah, both. How do you prepare?
Okay.
How important is it? And what does your practice regimen, your preparation look like?
Okay, so my practice regimen, I guess, is because I'm in a different stage of my life now.
Yeah.
I'm a mom, I'm a wife. So my preparation is while I'm folding clothes and doing all that fun stuff, I'm singing, I'm going over my words, I'm listening to the songs that I need to learn for the weekend in my headphones, things like that. So I prepare that way. I just sing it all the time. I'm working on my lines. I'm working on, you know, things that resonate with me about the music. So I just try to prepare in my everyday activities because I'm busier. When I was younger, when I didn't have a big family, I took it very seriously, very, very seriously. I would sing for hours and my parents would be really upset. But I would rehearse. I would get with friends who, you know, played instruments and I would just practice my writing, practice, you know, my songs and things like that. And it's really important to put in the work. It's almost like you can have this gift, you can have this talent, and it's like a bag of popcorn sitting on the plate, right? But if you don't put the popcorn in the microwave, and the microwave is kind of you doing your work, you doing your preparation, it's never going to pop. You can have a delicious bag of popcorn, a wonderful talent, just beautiful, but you've got to put in that work. Even if it's just 5 minutes a day, learning a new chord, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, doing a warm up, getting on YouTube. I'm pretty sure everybody here knows YouTube to a degree, right? Whatever the training is that you have, you can always challenge yourself to work on it every day. So again, I'll use my daughter because she's 12 years old. There are days when she's not wanting to do it. She's just like, oh, I just want to just bum around and just watch YouTube all day long. And I said, okay, let me know when you're ready to hit that note that you've been trying to hit and can't. I'll be here to work with you. Then she's like, oh yeah, let's try it. So I try to give her little reminders like, you know, it takes work. This doesn't happen overnight. It's daily working at it.
Yeah, and so like I guess to address the hurdle thing again, like when you were younger and you where'd you find the inspiration to keep going with that? Like when you hit a barrier like I can't hit this note,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you just got bored with it. Like how did you continue to go through and whatever your teachers were teaching you, how did you just kind
Mm-hmm.
of move forward in your craft?
I think it's important to always be around people who believe in you.
Mm.
Try to surround yourself with people who believe in you and that they can see more than you can. Because there were plenty of times where I was just like, oh, just I'm not gonna do that anymore. And then people who I was being accountable to would ask me to do something and I have to prepare for, you know, whether it be singing or speaking or whatever. I just think it's important to not let yourself just talk to someone. If you're feeling discouraged, if you're feeling like you're stuck or at a hurdle, open up to someone that that loves you and that sees, you know, can encourage you. I think that's important because a lot of times if we feel stuck, we don't talk about it, we'll stay there. But if you open up and share it with someone that you can trust and you know that loves you, they'll be able to push you to the next phase. And that's what I did. I had a lot of encouragement again from my church growing up. They always had me, you know, doing something. Even when I went through that weird phase of like being cool in middle school, like you don't really want to do anything in middle school, you just want to be cool. I was still serving. So
That's so you'd mentioned about writing.
mhm.
You know, I think like Zorro last week. Zorro, people mostly know him as a drummer, but he's an author. He's a speaker as well, and you do kind of similar things in terms of being
Mhm.
asked to speak at different things and songwriting. Maybe speak a little bit about that. Like I know maybe we have some budding songwriters and creatives that maybe they're a little fearful to kind of step out into that. How did you kind of make that jump, or what encouraged you to go down these different pathways?
Um, I think I wrote my first song. It was about like bacon or something like that. It's about bacon because I'm a bacon lover. I still love bacon. Um, and I just kept writing and I used what I was learning in school in English class with like haiku poems and just I just tried to use everything I could get my hands on to put it into my stories. I didn't really have a lot of life experience then, you know, everything was school, church, and home. That was pretty much it, and whatever else I did for fun. So I kind of honed my skills just writing, you know, what was in my imagination, what was in my heart, things that I loved, and little by little it started to make more sense. Little by little I started to um, get ideas and concepts that came together. Now I've truly believed that excuse me, that if you water your gift is going to grow. I really believe that. I feel like if you work on it, if you water it with action, if you water it with discipline, if you water it with consistency, it will grow. I am not the best songwriter. I still want to learn. I still want to be around other people who write all the time. I'm a much more established singer than I am writer, but it's something that I work on. I do try to push myself, and those guys with Thrive Worship, man, being with those guys can write a song, okay? They know how to write a song. And so I'm so thankful that I get to be challenged by them and to be able to sit with them. So yeah, I would just say, you know, keep at it. Just write, just journal, just write your feelings, your thoughts, and then see what comes of that.
Okay, so that's great. You mentioned Thrive Worship. Maybe fast forward to that. So you're a budding young songwriter, and you're writing about
Mhm.
bacon.
Yeah.
Now you're sitting in the studio with Corbin Phillips and Peter Burton, Charmaine.
Hmm.
Maybe give everybody a little picture of what that's about, because I imagine they envision like this glamorous studio that you come into and all of this stuff. But maybe give them a picture of what a writing session looks like, what the studio life looks like.
Okay, so I did my first writing time. Okay, let me give you just a tiny bit of backstory. Now, I've written songs that have been placed with artists and that have been sung, and that was great, but that was just a one level of songwriting. When I sat down with Peter and Charmaine to write a song, I was like, wait, what is happening here? It was next level. Um, the process is very basic. I mean, we just hung out at a studio. It wasn't anything glamorous. It's really like just relax and just chill. But you really get to see what comes out of someone else's mind when you do like a group writing. It changed me forever. I was so challenged. Like I couldn't just make words rhyme. I had to dig deeper. I had to be more creative and pull on that. And Peter and Charmaine and Corbin, they are amazing songwriters. And so they definitely challenged me for sure.
And you just mentioned that you guys were all together in Nashville with Thrive Worship's record label Integrity, and you
Yeah,
were with
that was
all these
amazing.
famous worship leaders, Leland and
Yes.
what's her name from Hillsong, Darlene
Darlene
Check.
Check. Yeah.
Maybe speak about that and what that collaboration looked like, and what it was like to work with all these worship artists that we listen to on the radio.
Yeah, I got a chance to meet a lot of the writers behind these amazing worship songs, and they were just all cool people. They just were great people who loved the Lord. And sitting down in that process, we got split up into groups and we just got to write with people, and songs were just popping up out of everywhere. Just kind of, you're sitting there across from Darlene Sheck, who's written songs that have changed the whole world in terms of worship. But it was really fun. It was really fun, and to be again challenged to hear something different, to have a different perspective on a topic. Even, when you say the word grace, or let's just say you say the word basketball, if you go around the room, that word basketball can be chopped up into so many different varieties and versions of the word basketball. And so that's why it's so good to write with other people, because you can pull more out of a topic than you could just by yourself. So it was amazing. I was really humbled to be there with all those guys. Matt Redman, it was just wow. I tried not to like fan out and like freak out. I did okay until Darlene Check. I just lost it a little bit. So I was like, I can have a picture. That's what I said.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's.
Well, so maybe on the topic of learning, of being continually learning, maybe can you speak a little bit about your degrees? And I think I read somewhere that you were a teacher at some point as well.
I was.
What drew you into the world of just continuing to learning and bettering yourself? What does that look like?
If there's nothing else that I love about my parents, is that the fact that they did not understand my gifting musically, they pushed me to go to school. That I would be like, oh, I'm going to be a singer one day. And they're like, yeah, okay, you're going to college. So I went to undergrad at Rutgers University, and I got a degree in sociology and women's studies. And then when I moved to California, I got my master's degree in education. These things had nothing to do with music. But these things really, truly established who I was as a person, and helped give me more things to write about. It gave me life experience by going to college and furthering my education. And then after I got my master's degree in education, I got my teaching credential, and I became a high school English teacher for about 6 years. So I was doing all that, and I was writing books and curriculum for school districts. I was doing all that. And on the side, I guess you could say, I was leading worship. Like, the two worlds really didn't collide often, but when they did, I kind of understood why I had to focus on my books and focus on school. So yeah, I didn't just sing and just leave it at that. I had to really establish myself as a woman first. And then God just opened those doors. And now I'm thankful that I have an education, because it really does shape how I handle my business, how I raise my family, it just affects everything. Because now in 2020, things are different. So social media, just knowing, time management, it's just so many things that go into how you're wired in your story. And I think education is important.
And I think, like you were saying before, as an early songwriter, not having much life experience, maybe that helped, as well as having that life experience under your belt of education.
It did. It really did. It helped me to just write from a different place, because I had to be on my own. I'm in college. I'm away at school. I had to depend on God in a different way than being at home.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so Thrive Worship, songwriting. Gosh, growing up in a variety of musical situations. Let's talk about Midtown a little bit, because
Okay.
Midtown, we know when Midtown brings the team into the building, we're all going to be challenged musically because of the level of musicianship that you guys bring. Can you talk about that a little bit? What's it like to work with all these guys like Marquis, just amazing, and all the great
Yeah.
musicians you guys have there?
Um, I love Midtown's team. I came to Bayside maybe about 5 years ago. And when I first came, I remember being so excited to be the guest. I was just the guest artist that was coming. And what I loved about the team was that The team was like family. You know, they loved each other. You know, they would make jokes on each other, and they would challenge each other musically. You know, the singers were challenging the other singers. You hit that note wrong. You know, and just culturally, when you're singing, it's a big deal. You know, and that's what I felt like at Midtown. When I became officially, you know, part of the staff, it was so fun because you got to understand that a lot with gospel music background, the culture is just different. So that means we're going to approach music differently, and we're going to have a different expectation. Not only do we want you to hit the note right, we want you to hit the note right and feel it. And we can tell if you don't feel it, because then you seem like you don't believe it. So it's so fun because they're challenging me, I'm challenging them, and it's all love. And at the end result is that we get to be a better team. I love the team so much because I've seen it grow. I've seen the people grow. I've seen worship leaders that we have now come in, and they were so shy and so timid. And I get on their nerves because I push them out there and I say, you're going to lead this song this morning. I know I said I'd do it, but you got it. And they think I'm crazy, but it's okay. We growing. So I really am thankful to be a part of a team that's just growing in so many ways.
You talked about feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, maybe speak to the student who's just learning Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. How do you, like, can you feel Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star? And then also to the volunteer that's serving on weekends, like, if maybe you're just doing BGVs or maybe you're doing acoustic guitar, what does that mean for you to kind of feel it?
I think it all starts back at gratitude. When you think now, if we're talking worship music specifically, like how you can feel that, even if you're singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, it's relative. When you are gracious and you have a gratitude for the gift that you have, the talent that you have, the talent that you're developing, and when you're thankful for it, it causes you to put your everything into it. Because there are some people who really wish that they had a talent like the ones that we have. They really wish that I meet people all the time that are amazing at science and engineering, and they always say, oh, I wish I could sing. You know, I can't do anything science related. So I'm thankful for my gift. I'm thankful for what God has given me, how he's made me. And it causes me to put everything I have into what I'm doing. So that means if you're playing the guitar, you should feel it by believing what you're playing. And it should come through the instrument. In the Bible, where David was ministering to Saul, you know, the evil spirit that was on him lifted off just by him playing. That's some serious stuff. So that same spirit, that same thing applies to me. When I sing, I always pray, God, let me feel what you feel, and let me sing so whoever hears me can feel that joy, you know what I'm saying? So whenever you play unto God and you get into it, it's just like we're at a basketball game. If your team is up there winning, you're not going to be like, yay, hooray, go team. You feel it and you're like, yes. So how much more do you get into or feel something that is the absolute truth? Someone who is just amazing consistently. It's just about perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's huge. So perspective and the gratitude thing, Melinda, I think that, because that's where worship starts, right? Is in gratitude of being grateful for what God's doing.
Yeah, you have to believe what you're saying.
Right. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, if anything, it's a challenging time to find things to be grateful for. How do you continue to find things to be grateful for?
Man, I think I always think like, okay, there's someone who didn't wake up. There's someone who, doesn't have the ability to do all the things, the activities of their limbs. There's so many things to be thankful for. You know, just for waking up this morning, for being in my good health. These are just basic things that we can take for granted sometimes. And I'm trying in my personal life to stay in an attitude of gratitude. Like, God, I'm so thankful. I'm thankful for my church. I'm thankful for just our global church community. You know, I'm thankful for my family, my friends. And whenever I get to sing, I'm thinking about those things. Doesn't mean that everything is perfect. It means I'm going to zero in on the goodness of God, and I'm going to put that into whatever I'm doing.
So good. Midtown, maybe a little bit more on Midtown. What you talked about being a different culture. I know what I wanted to ask you about. We talked earlier on about the culture of kind of like a Granite Bay service and the culture of a Midtown service, how you can kind of meld those together. And I loved your philosophy on this. I don't know if you remember the conversation we had, but maybe you can speak a little bit about that, like crossing cultural boundaries to bring the church together.
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to church, Jesus is the culture. Jesus Christ is the culture. There isn't a different culture per se with different styles or different regions or different neighborhoods. Jesus is our unifying factor. Now, what I love about God is that he didn't make us all the same, because then heaven would be very boring. We'd all be singing, I don't know what we would be doing, but it's an expression of God. And once we realize that God is wanting to express himself through me, I get excited about my own uniqueness. And because Jesus is the culture, whenever I get with my sister or brother, when I get with Allison, or when I get with Kayla, or I get with Corbin, we have the same culture, which is kingdom culture, Jesus culture. And how is he going to express through you today? Corbin might stay strictly country on it, or he might hit, a different note. I get to sing it from, my heart, the way that I do it. And I've never seen it go bad. I've done research on this. I've never seen different styles of music and different flavors come together, unified in Christ, and it ever sound bad or be bad. It is the most beautiful sound that you could ever experience. Actually, everything goes up. When we come together and we join the different style, everything levels up. It's like, oh man, did you hear that? Oh, let's try that. And I've seen it with Thrive Worship. I've seen it with Bayside Church. And this is what I love. You take just a moment that could just be simple with pads that we're always using to hear a pad underneath a song, right? Pads. And then you might add Charmaine's take on something. Then, I get to say it how I feel it. I've just never seen it be bad. It's always Jesus is the culture. We just get to allow God to express himself through us to add to that. And I get really excited about it, because I believe like Midtown style is just is different, but it's the same heartbeat. We're singing the same song, just in a different expression, So
It's like you said, the worship thing is the constant. Like Jesus is the constant. You don't need to worry about things changing around that.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like me as a mom now. Oh gosh, now that I'm a mom, I can only imagine how God could feel sometimes. I have 4 kids, 4 different personalities, 4 totally different just mindsets. They're the way that they think. They're all different, but I love them all. And when I come in the door and they're like, mommy, 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 I know each voice distinct. I know who's who. I know who's calling me. I know which one need. And I just can imagine that that's how God feels. I wouldn't want just one kid with the same voice, with the same sound. It feels so good when they say, mommy, I love you. And it's coming from different kids. So imagine just how our Heavenly Father feels. We're like, Jesus, I love you. Over here with some soul and some reggae and then you got Jesus, I love you. Oh God, just as a mom, that feels amazing. So I can't imagine how heaven must be rejoicing with different styles and flavors.
Amazing. So good. Well, I think that's probably a good spot to open it up. If any students have questions, or even teachers, if you guys have questions, we want to kind of take the conversation in some different directions. We can open that up.
I got a question. So I know that there are a lot of students, you touched a little bit on social media, you touched a little bit on like using your education and using your different perspective on just creating a new presence and something that people can look at and be encouraged by. And I know almost everybody on this conversation probably has an Instagram or watches YouTube or watches Facebook. When it comes to putting it out there, who you are, like what are some things that you focus on when it comes to encouraging other people, and when it comes to coming from a heart of worship and sharing worship online? Because I know sometimes that can be a little iffy. I know some people have the conversation of, well, what if I say this wrong, or what if I do this wrong, or even do I look prideful if I post myself worshiping? What do you think? What are your thoughts about all that?
I've come a long way. It's funny you ask about that. I used to be so afraid to just share things online. I'm a very I keep to myself in the sense of, private. But I realized that God has given me a gift and a platform that He's built. Like, I can't go tell people to follow me. Like, they have to click the button on their own. I mean, there have been times, but you see what I'm saying? So when it comes to sharing my gift, I think that's just what it is. The fear that you might feel doesn't come from God. And I think the enemy, when I say the enemy, of course, I mean, like, just the negative things that we can feel. A lot of times, they want us to be afraid to shine our light. And God tells us to shine our light bright. It took me a long time to get there because I was in the spotlight. I didn't want people to think, oh, she thinks she's, whatever. But when I realized there were people being blessed and touched by it, I was able to gain more confidence and say, you know what? I want to share my story. And I'm just trying to be as real and authentic as possible, not really worrying about, now my DMs are people who disagree with me. They're like, oh, well, you shouldn't have said this and this and that. But I had to grow in my own confidence to say, this is the space that I have to share my gifts. And it does bless people. That's the most important thing. I think it blesses people more than, I even imagine. So it's just like a tool. Social media is just a tool. It's not the end all be all. It's just one avenue that we can use to spread the gospel. And it did take me time to kind of develop that courage to just put myself out there and share.
Awesome. Other questions for Melinda while we have her here?
No questions, you guys? Come on. Somebody's got a question.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Ella looks like she has a question.
Ella, come on, Ella.
I'll try and think of one. When you first started, when you first became a worship leader at Bayside, how was that different for you?
How was it what?
Different for you? And what are some fun things that you did?
Oh, Ella, it was so different than what I was used to. Okay, I came from a church. We had one service. That's it. So when I came to Bayside, I went from one service to 4 services. When I did worship at my other church, worship was maybe 30 minutes. At Bayside, it was shorter, and I had to do it a lot more times. That was the first thing that was different. I had to learn just how to then do it again and again and again and again. So that, I would say, that was the biggest difference. I was used to just doing it one time and I'm off for the day. We're just gonna go have dinner. No, Bayside services and services. But it was fun. It was a great difference. It was a lot of fun because I get to be with the team all the time. So
Great question, Ella. Anybody else? Students? Joanna?
I have a question.
Yeah, Ryan.
With your babysitters, what really hooked you in and made you want to listen about that? Like, what made you just get all passionate? Like, what made you feel like that?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of two things. I think that obviously God had given me a gift that I didn't really know that was there. A gift to sing that needed to be developed, matched with they just sounded so good. And I wanted to match what I felt on the inside. I wanted to be able to get it out the way that they got it out. Because when I was younger, I could feel like this sounds cool in my head, but I didn't know how to get it out and sing it that way. So being around them, I saw how passionate they were. I saw how serious they, believed into their songs, and it made me want to be just like them. So I think it's important to be around people that you aspire to be like, or aspire um, to use your gifts and talents like them, because they can rub off on you in a good way.
That's good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
More questions? Sophie? Any of our teachers? Okay. Well, I think unless anybody has anything else, Melinda, do you have any kind of maybe final words of encouragement for the kids now? And they're in summer, we're in quarantine, lots of time to practice. So whatever we can do to encourage them, if you have any final thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think anybody who is a student and that is aspiring to grow in your gifts and talents, I would say when you, and this is just what has been true in my life, when you give your gift back to God, He gives it back to you, and He always adds some goodies on top. He's not going to just give you a gift and not bless it. When you dedicate yourself to God and serving Him, He will always add to your gift. He's always adding, 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 adding. So yeah, stick with God and He'll stick with you.
That's awesome. Well, one final thing. I know, gosh, it's so encouraging. Like all of our artists on this masterclass series, I know, like Zorro, have this in common. You guys are all prayer warriors. So if you wouldn't mind, would you close us in a word of prayer?
Sure. Father, thank you so much for Thrive Arts Academy. I thank you for all of the students, all of the instructors, and the organizers. Father, today I pray that something that I've said would be encouraging and uplifting to their hearts. And I also pray, Lord, that they would individually find their purpose in you and find their sweet spot in their relationship with you that can help develop their talents, Lord. Help them to understand and see that you are the gift giver, and that we are children of the gift giver, and you know all about how you made us and how you wired us. And I pray, Lord, that you would just build confidence in you so that you could flow through them to bless other people. I ask that you would just continue to bless Thrive Arts Academy, give them creative ideas, and add more students to what they're doing, and that the ones that they do have will continue to grow in excellence in their talents and gifts. I thank you so much just for this opportunity to meet with them and to hang out with them this morning. I ask that you would just bless them and keep them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, thank you
Amen.
again, Melinda.